Hello. Are you a bit puzzled about what that picture is next to me? Well, it doesn't make a lot of sense because it is in a state of what you might call disarray. It is the giant solar array at Portwyn in Anglesey, the island of Anglesey, which is just north off the coast of Wales. And it's a beautiful place, or rather, it was a beautiful place before they covered it with this solar farm. And if you can't make much sense out of the picture you see in front of you, here's a close-up. Yep, in an area notorious for its winds and storms battering it periodically, even before something like Storm Dara came along, the Welsh government decided to put up a solar farm. I'm going to be talking about the madness of the Welsh government, a group of people who appear to have too much time on their hands and not enough sense in their heads. I'm Graniopteryx. I'm on YouTube, Rumble, BitChute and Minds. All right, well, the headline says, huge storm-wrecked solar farm on Anglesey won't be repaired until 2025. Hundreds of solar panels were torn off their fixings during Storm Dara. I mean, who would have thought it? These great glass plates lying there at an angle to the ground. And who would have thought that a storm would get underneath the glass and just lift it up into the air and then let it fall? And who would have thought that the glass would break upon reaching the ground? I mean, the Welsh government couldn't possibly have anticipated that sort of thing, could they now? Repairs to a storm-damaged solar farm on Anglesey will take weeks to complete, its owners have said. Well, it all makes work for the working man to do, doesn't it? A clean-up is underway at the giant Portwyn array near Cemmaes as EDF Renewables UK assesses the extent of the damage. Hundreds of panels at the 190-acre site. That's 190 acres of beautiful Welsh countryside that should at the very least be covered with grass and sheep. It's covered with, well, this instead. But this is so much more aesthetic, is it not? Hundreds of panels were shredded and torn off their fixings during Storm Dara at the weekend. The huge solar farm was built just 2 years ago, and residents living nearby now fear land contamination from shattered solar panels. So not only are those glass panels stopping sheep from grazing there, I believe that sheep can graze in between them, but not with a lot of broken glass all over the place. And in the surrounding area, it has contaminated everything. As well as, let's have a look at that picture again, as well as just contaminating the view. Currently in the planning pipeline are 2 mega solar units covering 3,700 acres. I mean, if you're going to be mad, you might as well be magnificently mad, mightn't you? Mostly farmland. They're going to take 3,700 acres of mostly farmland. Let me remind you what they're going to be covering them with. Yeah, this sort of thing. Oh, that's interesting because one of the ways of remembering various sequences on the piano is, I just remembered, all cows eat grass. And, well, to match the modern world, we should change it a bit. It should be all cows eat glass. Right. Let's carry on. Currently in the planning pipeline are 2 mega solar units covering 3,700 acres of mostly farmland, equating to about 2% of Anglesea's entire land area. How beautiful for Anglesey. Both are also earmarked for the north of the island, and the bigger of the two, Maynhere, is around 5 times the size of the UK's largest currently active solar farm. The other, Alaumon, will have an installed capacity more than 3 times that of Porthuin. Well, good old Anglesey. The Isle of Broken Glass. Joe Blair, who lives near the Porthuin development, said residents are very concerned. Very concerned. I'd be incandescent. She said EDF hasn't been in touch or put up any signage or barriers to warn the public to keep away. Construction work at Porthuin began in June 2022. The first electricity generated later in the year, despite local protests. Okay, what does it matter if the local people don't like it? I mean, really, what do local people have to do with any of this? Planning consent for the 49.9 megawatt scheme was secured in 2017 by Countryside Renewables, North Anglesey. At the time, it was the biggest scheme ever consented in Wales, capable of powering up to 9,500 homes. 9,500. I mean, all of this for just 9,500 homes. Okay, in 2021, the site was bought by EDF. The point is, here's a nice picture of some more wreckage. I mean, this is what the countryside looked before, and this is what it looks like now. In my opinion, the Welsh Assembly is a complete disaster. Just a complete disaster. And that they thought they were being mistreated by England, by the English administration, but they are being far worse treated by their own government. Like they have instituted a 20-mile-an-hour speed limit. Almost everywhere is 20 miles an hour. When was this? In September 23. The new 20-mile-an-hour speed limit for Wales residential roads is insane, according to a UK cabinet minister. Commons leader Paddy Mordaunt called having such a limit as the default for many roads crazy. And then you see it's the BBC, so they had to say, this is the BBC reporting rather, so she had to say 20-minute speed limit, it may be a good idea in certain areas. They had to qualify it. Yes, of course, I'll tell you what, a 10-mile-an-hour limit would make even more sense. I mean, why not just have everybody ride horses? Most roads in Wales that are currently 30 miles an hour will become 20 miles an hour from Sunday, although councils have discretion to impose exemptions. Just too many people with too much time on their hands to make pointless laws. They've been urged to introduce dog-free zones to combat racism. The recommendation has been put to the Welsh Government in a report responding to its anti-racism action plan. So the Welsh Government has decided they're going to have an anti-racism action plan, and then one of the recommendations was, get rid of dogs. This was Climate Cymru. BAME has recommended the canine-free areas to introduce to green spaces in Wales. It comes as the government revealed updated plans to end racism in Wales by 2030, ensuring that all areas of public life are transformed. So this is a government that thinks it can change basic human nature. Look, there will always be racism of a sort. Of course, it depends how you define racism. Nowadays, racism is defined in ways that 10 years ago would have been considered ridiculous. So there is no end to this. Yes, there will always be prejudice. And we can always do little things to stop prejudice. But I remember there was a golf club in Leeds, and this was in the 50s, I suppose. They didn't allow Jews in there, and the newly rich Jewish community, they'd started off as tailors in the 19th century, mostly, and then they started branching out, and their sons and daughters became doctors and accountants and business people, and they wanted to join this golf club. And this golf club wouldn't take them. So what they did was they started their own golf club. I mean, that's the way you combat racism. It turned out to be a better golf club than the other one, and pretty soon all barriers fell. At least I believe that's the story. It's a very common idea anyway. But no. The Welsh government have decided that they are going to legislate people's innermost feelings. I'm not arguing for racism, you have to understand. What I'm saying is, well, as Queen Elizabeth I said, you can't make, well, more or less said, you can't make a window into men's minds. And you can't legislate people out of prejudice. You've just got to make conditions. Oh, I'm sorry. Sounds like somebody at the door. Nope, sounds like my husband's getting it. That's all right. Okay, and here we have some more madness from the Welsh government. The Cass report. The Cass report was to do with gender identity, and the recommendation of Dr. Cass was that you don't give children puberty blockers. They don't really know what they're doing, and you shouldn't chemically castrate them until they've reached more of an age of discretion. But, of course, the Welsh government knows better. And Welsh Cabinet Secretary for Social Justice has said the Welsh Government will not review their LGBTQ plus action plan in light of the Cass review. So they know far better than Dr. Hilary Cass. Labour also refused to acknowledge the importance of ensuring that women's sport is protected from biological male advantage. And I mean, quite frankly, I think that the whole Welsh Assembly should be wound up. It is not fit for purpose. And they are, what was it? They have 60 members now, and what they want to do is put it up to 96 members, which means there's going to be more people looking for things to do, for laws to pass, for interference to enact, and for scarring the beautiful and magical Welsh countryside with this sort of thing. It's just tragic. Welsh people, wake up. You have a dragon as your symbol. Do some roaring. Okay, till next time. You can help my channel by subscribing and clicking the notification bell. That's quite important. And by sharing if you're so inclined. Links to my other channels and to donation methods are in the description. But the best way you can help is simply by clicking like and notify. Thank you.